Well, hello there. As you can probably notice, we're inside today. It's too cold out. This morning it was 10 degrees Fahrenheit. That's minus 12 degrees Celsius for my metric friends. I've been a Wisconsin resident for 48 years and I'm still not acclimated to the winters. But that's okay. So, for a lot of these videos, I will write up notes for a few days and try to make them coherent and so that I don't forget anything and try to be as complete as possible. So if it looks like I'm reading something, it's because I am. And I'm not aware of any bonus points given for 100% eye contact. Besides, that could get really uncomfortable for all of us. Okay, ready? All right. Now for the best retirement advice I've ever received. Cast your mind now. The year was 1998. I was a very green intern, and a mid-40s guy named Dan, we'll call him Dan because that's his name, he had me pull up a blank Excel spreadsheet and began to show me what happens when you invest consistently over time. Of course, I knew how to add and multiply, but until this point, I had never applied these basic functions to money. This was a lesson on the power of compound interest. Basically, invest a percentage of your earnings every month. In my case, it would be into a 401k. Now, my first year, I made $43,000. Dan said, for starters, contribute 15%, which in my case would have been $540 a month, or $64.50 per year. And do this every pay period, every year, for as long as you're working. So year one was simple, $64.50. Year two was that, plus 10%, which is market average, plus another $64.50. Year three was again previous year plus 10%, then plus another $64.50. To keep this exercise simple, we compounded annually, just doing this row by row, all the way down for like 40 years. It was a bit underwhelming at first. In fact, I'd say the first 10 years or so aren't that glamorous. But after that, it starts to get interesting. Just by doing this alone, with average returns of about 10%, which is historically accurate, you'd have, in that account, you'd have over $1 million in 30 years. So if you're 22 and you do this for 30 years, now you're a 52-year-old with $1 million in one account. Not too shabby. What if you kept going until 60? Well, then that same account would be worth $2.3 million. So that's only 8 more years. That's interesting. So yeah, this stuff can snowball after years of earning money on your money. And that's if I never get a raise, which is not realistic. And that's with $0 in company matching. And that's not realistic either. Also, this is for one person. May a spouse do this too? I think so. So with something like a 401k, you're not taxed now or when you contribute the money or on any gains year to year. So in fact, you don't have to pay any taxes until you begin withdrawing the money. That's when the IRS gets their cut. But early on, it's all about getting that snowball of money started. The sooner the better. So did I listen to this advice? Sort of. At first, I did just the 15%, not the actual maximum. I should have done the maximum, which in 98, 99 was $10,000. As an aside, for some reason, some odd reason, many people think that 15% is the maximum you can put into a 401k. Nope. The real max is actually a certain dollar amount set by our friends at the IRS. In this year, 2025, that amount is $23,500. It's more if you're over 50, but let's keep this video simple. I wish I had maxed this out every year. I have a lot more money. Also, I should have paid attention to the funds available. So the 401k is just the account, but inside that account has different funds you can pick from, stocks, bonds, whatever. And I think for most of my career, I didn't pick very good funds. What I should have picked was more equity funds, something with annual returns that match the S&P, around 10% a year. That would have been great. I also should have paid more attention to the annual fees. Each fund has a fee from almost nothing up to 1-2%. High fees are a real drag on your money. Avoid it if you can. Taxes are also a big time drag on your money, but that doesn't happen in a 401k, at least until you withdraw it, because it grows tax-free. It's awesome. I didn't realize it at the time, but this spreadsheet exercise is what cemented the idea that retirement is just math. When can you retire? Just do the math. If you're new here, my name is Mike, and I retired at 41. If you find the topic of early retirement interesting, please consider giving me a like and subscribe. I appreciate it, and it helps the channel out. Okay, next advice. This is a year later, 1999, from Bob. Bob said, own a duplex and live in one half of it. He said the tenant will pay most of your mortgage. Basically, this was a lesson on the power of low cost of living and at the same time building up an asset. He said one day you'll move out and rent out both sides, doubling the rent you get. Did I listen? No. I was too young. I thought I knew everything. I didn't want to get into landlording tenants. At 23, what did I know about maintenance and fixing toilets at 2 a.m.? I already had a job. I didn't want another one. What I didn't realize was the secret sauce. If you're going to do something like that, you hire a competent property manager. They are worth their weight in gold. But I didn't know that. But did I do it? No, I should have. What actually happened is lived in an apartment for 3 years, and the same rent we paid would have easily went into paying for a duplex mortgage. For example, in '99, you could have bought a duplex for $100,000. And we could have built equity in that duplex with a 20% down payment. We would have had principal pay down from the start with help from the tenant, and you'd get something like appreciation. What's that? Well, value goes up. What has property done since '99? Easily been 3% per year. And that's on the total value of the property, not just on your down payment. So 3% on your down payment would be about $600 in this example. But 3% on the total value, so 100 grand, 3% is $3,000 every year, or 15% of your down payment. And that's without any rents. That's without writing off something called depreciation at tax time. Now you can see why some folks get into real estate, because the returns are generally higher than the market. All right. The final piece of advice, and this is the best. I saved the best for last. Also 1999, a seasoned IT veteran named Dennis. He took a shine to me. I don't know why. Maybe he felt sorry for me. Whatever it was, he became an unofficial mentor of sorts. You know what he said? He said, take a good look at everyone around the office. Everybody that is 40 plus years old, unless they are highly paid or have a corner office, they're pretty miserable. Well, why is that? Sometime in your 40s or 50s, you will be asked to do something you don't want to do. Like relocate. Maybe there'll be a reorg and your job role will change to something you don't like. Or, of course, could be laid off. So unless you have a plan, you have to say yes. And they know it. Why? Because when you're in your 40s or beyond, you probably have children or family to take care of. That's not free. You probably also have some loans. Mortgage on your house and your lake house, of course. How about an auto loan or two? Maybe a loan on your jet skis that you don't need. What about a student loan? Yes, people in their 40s and 50s, some of them still hang on to that student debt. And of course, there's credit card debt. So at that age, you have all kinds of expenses and bills that have to be paid. Anyway, and so they know it, and they got you. So I did look around the office. I actually did this on each floor of the office building I was in. And for the most part, it's true. It was a huge revelation and a great observation by Dennis. Be prepared for this to happen to you. Did I listen? Not at first, but yes. Nearly 20 years later, I found myself in that position. I was working all hours of the day and night, 6 to 7 days a week. Thankfully, by that time, I had squirreled away enough acorns that I knew all my expenses would be covered. It could have been a time of real panic, but it wasn't. Aside from getting married and the birth of my kids, turning in that resignation letter was one of the greatest days of my life. We can go over the details on that another time, but be prepared. Be ready for it. It's likely to happen. So there you have it. The best retirement advice I've ever received. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of this advice, and also let me know what's the best retirement advice you have received. I'm sure you have some. Next time, we're going to go over the topic of savings rate and how it can determine your retirement date. Are you intrigued? You should be. So that's all for today. See you next time, and remember to always do your best and forget the rest. Peace!